welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hi, this is Jessica with Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. I am here with an author who has written so many books that we love for all different age groups and different genres too. However, you have been really killing it with the cozy fantasy genre ever since the SPELLSHOP came out. We can't hear enough of patrons who love it.
That is so wonderful to hear. Hi, I am so happy to be here. Thank you for chatting with me.
You're welcome, Sarah Beth Durst. And this book, so first of all, I have to say, your book, The Bone Maker, was one of my absolute favorites of all time. And this is also another one of my favorites. And they are both fantasy, but they are extremely different. The Bone Maker is much darker, much grittier. And this one is there's but there is still emotion in it. It's considered a cozy fantasy, but it's still very emotional. And I have to just kind of applaud you for being able to just write emotions in different tones in a way that just resonates so well.
Oh, thank you so much. That's wonderful to hear. I love writing both. I love writing stories. Things that make me happy. And so Bone Maker's epic fantasy, as you said. So it's meant to be like one of those exciting adventures that pulls you into this whole world and like save the world kind of thing. And then SPELLSHOP is the deep breath that follows. SPELLSHOP, yes, the cozy fantasy. It is that we're not saving the world, we're saving a heart. We're saving a soul.
Yeah, that's a wonderful analogy. And this book it's not necessarily so much, it doesn't feel like a direct sequel as it is a companion. It's in the same universe. It has some of the same elements and it references Kaz and other elements that you would recognize if you loved the SPELLSHOP. But it is the story of Turlu Terry, who created Kaz. She is a librarian, which is makes it even closer to my heart. And she created this sentient spider plant out of loneliness, which, it's very funny. Like a lot of people I know are like, I would much rather spend time with plants than people or cats than people. And it felt very understandable why she would want to do that for that reason as well. But this is forbidden magic. There's a line in the beginning that to me, especially now, is terrifying, where her punishment is supposed to be a warning to all librarians who break the law. And it hits really hard, especially now. We are in a very supportive community, luckily, but around the country, it's a bit scary what I've been reading. Where we're not being turned into wood statues, but it definitely feels eerie, and reading those words in a book was tight. But years later, after her punishment, she reawakens in these beautiful enchanted greenhouses, and just sort of the adventure of the heart really begins. So tell us a little bit about the Enchanted Greenhouse and how you went from SPELLSHOP to this particular story.
Love that phrase, adventure of the heart. I think I need to write that down. That's beautiful. And I think that's exactly what these books are. I think you encapsulated that perfectly. So the SPELLSHOP and the Enchanted Greenhouse, as you said, are connected standalones. They're set in the same world. Mainly because I didn't want to say goodbye. I know when I finish writing a book, I'm supposed to be all celebratory. Yay, book is done. Woo, big thing, whatever. But I always feel a little sad because you live in this world. I have to fall in love with these characters in order to write them. And then to have to say goodbye, it's really hard. So I was delighted to be able to still explore this world. And I didn't want to do the same characters because I left them happy. And I didn't want to have to make them unhappy for them to go on an emotional journey in the second book. So I'm like, all right, going to be different characters, different island, get to explore a different aspect of this world, a different way to approach this story and this feeling. And really, that's where both of these books started, is with the feeling. I knew how I wanted the reader to feel. I knew what kind of vibe I wanted the book to have. I wanted it to feel like a warm hug. I wanted it to feel like a good friend is sitting next to you and whispering, everything's going to be okay. You're good just as you are. And I wanted to capture that. So I built all the details of the world, all the details of the character and of the story centered around that feeling that I wanted to create. And basically just sat down and said, okay, what makes me happy? What's like the coolest magical greenhouse I can think of? And then what's another? And it all unfolded from there.
Did the characters exist in your mind when you wrote the Spell Shop? Because like I said, we meet Kaz, but did you know the entire backstory of how he came to be and his creator? And when was it that she kind of walked onto the scene and said, "Hey, you're going to write about me next, right?"
It was actually in the act of writing the Spell Shop when I wrote about Kaz's creator and her fate, that she'd been turned into a wooden statue as punishment. And that's all Kaz knows in the Spell Shop. And I couldn't stop worrying about her. Now I'm like, I can't leave it like that. This is a cozy fantasy. Everything's supposed to be okay. I can't leave her story there. So Enchanted Greenhouse, it's not a prequel. It's what happens after that point, after she's a statue. And I wanted to explore her story. And she's a very different personality than Keela as well. She's got a different journey to go on. And I wanted to write about second chances and starting over, and that forgiveness of herself and the found family aspect, all of those warm, fuzzy things, all wrapped up into saying kindness is strength, connection with others is strength, and that will bring happiness. That connection with others, that empathy, that kindness, that's what I wanted to bundle in there, as well as having a whole lot of magical plants and a winged cat and tiny dragons.
Yeah, no, I think just your connection to empathy and just the emphasis on it is really important. And I think like one of the things, like, again, not to keep going back to just sort of the differences between this and like the Bone Maker is, they both take place, even though something comes back in the Bone Maker, they both take place after certain battles were won.
Yes.
And I feel like that is a story we don't hear enough in fantasy. And I like that this was almost like, that this and this, like, it's like you're pulling that blanket up next to you with your cup of mint tea and just sort of like having this, like, man, we all got really hurt by this thing. And let's sort of think about it with empathy and look at the world as it's unfolding. I really related to Terry, other than just the librarian part, just that feeling of isolation, but also feeling like you're just not the right fit for anything specific, except for in this wonderful world with these enchanted greenhouses and
Yes.
this gardener, who can also tend to these plants. Um, was writing her, did it feel very different than any of your other characters?
All my characters have to feel distinct to me. I never base them on real people, though I'm sure people I know seep into my characters. That's inevitable, but they're not based on anybody I know. They're not based on movie characters, other characters, whatever. I need to feel like they're real. I mean, I see my job as making up imaginary friends and hanging out with them all day. so, so to create these characters, I really have to feel that I understand what kind of childhood they had, what's important to them, what they want, what they're afraid of, what they dream about, what their favorite foods are. Now, they need to feel like they're my friend in order for me to write them. So Terlu, she really feels real to me, listening to the voices in my head, I suppose. But I really wanted to make her emotional journey feel as true as possible. And I think that's what we're trying to do as writers. We're using lies to tell truth. Yes, this magic doesn't exist. This world can't possibly exist. These people aren't real. But what I'm really talking about is the human condition, what it means to be a person, what it means to seek your happiness, what it means to connect to other people, and how to move through the world, how to chase your dreams, how to chase your bliss, and all of that sort of thing. So to create characters and to write the different books, I feel like the key thing is to try to tap into that emotional core and see the world as emotionally honestly through their eyes as possible, no matter what magic or craziness is going on around them, whether they're being attacked by a bone army or whether they're hanging out by a winged cat and eating some honey cake. It's the same kind of see the world as clearly as you can with what's there.
I do love the winged cat, and I know I'd mentioned this before. You had been at one of the very first library conferences I ever went to on Long Island, where you talked about the importance of talking cats.
Oh, that is something I believe firmly. I love that you remember that.
Of course. Well, because it meant a lot to me because I am a cat person. And at the time I was a children's librarian, and I believe it was a middle grade series that you were talking about. But it did feel it did feel very real. And it's sort of like every time it kind of comes up or there's a cat, in your books, I think back to it, and it really was one of the first times professionally I saw an author speak about their process. So it meant a lot to me, for that reason. And we have talking plants in this book.
You do.
Did you want to chat a little bit about them?
I love my talking plants. Yeah, it's funny. The more books you write, the more you find out things that you're obsessed with that you didn't even know you're obsessed with. And I am clearly obsessed with things that talk that shouldn't talk. So plants is just the latest manifestation of that. I mean, when I was a kid, I decided I wanted to be a writer when I was very young. It's really the only thing I've ever wanted to be. But I didn't know any writers. I'd never met one. I had no idea how one went about becoming a writer. So what I did was I read the phone book. I got this stack of index cards and I looked through the phone book for all the cool names I could find, and I would write down the cool name. Then I would assign them a magical power and a talking animal sidekick. So I feel like this began very young for me, and this is just the latest manifestation of my obsession with anthropomorphizing things that I probably shouldn't.
It worked extremely well. And I think, I have to say, and this is not to say there's anything wrong with, sentient talking plants or, but it's a testament to you and your writing, just how natural it felt in this world, because we're used to the talking animals, but, we've seen talking plants or talking trees that are, malicious or not, but this was just done so sensitively that, it felt so real. It felt like we were there listening with Turlu. And I mean, like the voices, they were all just so distinct. I loved it.
Thank you. Yep, I loved writing my plants. They're very real to me. One of the cutest side effects of these books is how many people have sent me photos of their plants. I'm happy. I love getting them. It's very cool. I mean, I think we as humans are capable of so much love that we can just bestow it on anything we choose. And I think that's beautiful.
I wanted to also talk a little bit about just the world in general. I love that, I love the little dragon pollinators, and just that it has like an ecosystem. Um, just like it feels very expansive. And I'm assuming that this is not the last time we're going to see this world.
That is
Uh,
correct.
is what, do you sort of, when you're building it out, do you sort of see yourself walking through it with your imaginary friends, with your friends, and you experience it as they experience it? Or do you kind of sit and draft everything out very carefully?
Both, very much both. I do outline because I like to know the shape of the journey that I'm taking the characters on, because it's all about the journey the character goes on. Even if they don't go anywhere, they're going someplace emotionally, and you need to take the reader through that world. The reader isn't going to care about the world or the message or anything you're trying to say or do if they don't care about that character. So I do outline, and then I immediately ignore the outline. I love the discovery of writing. I like to leave myself open for something awesome to arise out of the situation that I have placed the characters in. And so I write by, this is a little cheesy, but I call it the rule of awesome. And so I ask myself at every moment as I'm developing the story, given that this is true, given that this is true about the characters, true about the world, all the things that I've decided before, what is the most awesome thing that could happen next? And I write that. And that has been my process for many, many books. And it makes it so much fun. And it makes it so that it grows organically. And it makes it so I have little things like tiny dragons that pollinate the flowers.
You also write these books at the like during the same publishing year as other books.
Yeah.
How does that work for you?
Well, I have no work-life balance whatsoever, and I'm totally fine with that. But, I really love writing. It brings me joy. I love the act of just sheer crafting sentences, of bringing something into existence that didn't exist before. Now crafting a world that will hopefully go on to live inside somebody else's heart, just as it's lived inside mine. So I'm one of those write every day people. If there are any writers out there listening, you don't have to write every day. Some people write for a stretch and then take a break and refill their creative well, and that's totally fine. But I am one of those write every day people because I feel A, it keeps the momentum going, and B, it keeps me happy. So I write every day. And then when I finish a draft and send it off to my editor, I can't like not write something the next day. So I start a different story. So that's basically how I manage it. I don't write two stories that are different in the same day because every story has its own voice. It's got its own music to it, the melody and the rhythm and the pacing. So I need to sink into that music to write it. So I do one at a time. And then when I finish it off, I switch to the different music. And then I switch back. So that way I'm always writing, but it's just a different song at different times.
So you do, that was actually what I was going to ask you. Do you listen to music while you're writing?
I do,
Yeah.
always, yes. Sometimes I even prepare a playlist for the kind of feel that I want it. For instance, when I was writing The Bone Maker, there was definitely a lot of, Wonder Woman soundtrack and Lord of the Rings soundtrack and those epic, like stirring instrumentals. And for Spell Shop, I listened to a lot of Enya, like a whole lot of Enya.
Oh yes, I can definitely feel it. It's actually funny because recently I saw some meme going around, and Enya was around the same time as this. But there was like something, imagine trying to tell today's youth that there was a time in the 90s, like for 2 months, where everybody just listened to Gregorian chants.
Yes, we did.
And yeah, and like see if they'll actually believe you. But that was, I feel like that time period and Enya were akin to each other.
I love that. I had forgotten that. Yes. Well, the third book set in this world, which will be coming out next summer, is called Sea of Charms. And for writing that, I've been listening to a whole lot of sea shanties.
Oh,
So
that is so
that one,
cool.
that one's fueled by sea shanties and hot chocolate.
Oh, that's nice. I love it. Um, Do you listen to different music for different characters? Like for Yarrow, for instance, was music for Yarrow very different than music for Turlu?
Oh, I wish I could say yes to that because that would be super clever, but that would require sorting my playlists with like a greater degree of accuracy than I possess. So no, but I will fast forward through songs where I'm like, "Oh, let's skip that one. That doesn't make any sense to be playing right now." Um, but I do always listen to music. I do find that it's helpful to have a song whispering in my ear. And it's also helpful because part of the trick of being a writer is believing in yourself and believing in the story and trusting your instincts. And everybody comes pre-installed with this little voice in their head of self-doubt. And so I find if I listen to music, that little voice of self-doubt goes off and like sings along, and I can get work done.
This book was lovely. I don't want to give too much of it away, but it is very it is just very healing, and beautiful. And if you liked the Spell Shop, you're gonna love this. What do you have anything else coming out anytime soon other than the next one in this world?
Well, the Enchanted Greenhouse is this summer, and then next spring, I think around April, I'm gonna have a YA cozy fantasy coming out called The Faraway Inn, which is set in Vermont, and it's about a girl who goes to help her great aunt with her somewhat dilapidated inn and discovers that it's all a little bit more than what it seems. And then that will be followed in the summer by Sea of Charms, which is the third one in the Spell Shop world, which will also be a standalone, a connected standalone. So you don't have to worry about cliffhangers with me.
Well, we hope that you'll come back and chat with us about that.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
And we're going to see you at Syosset Library in August.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I hope everybody that's listening comes and hangs out with me in August. I would look forward to meeting you.
Please do. This was wonderful. Thank you so much. Once again, this was Jessica with Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. Our guest was
Sarah Beth Durst.
And we are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.